You're not answering the question I asked. I want you to describe your relationship with the Chief Justice. He says he's your friend, not those things of professional relationship. Your personal relationship with Chief Justice. He says you met first year and all that.
Yeah.
And we heard that from him. I want to hear it from you. What is your relationship? You first year and then what happened and like that.
Oh, okay. Well, we met at university in 1981, and we did the same degree, which took 3 years. We were friends, but not as close friends as we became later on, but we were friends. In 1984, he went to do his LLB at University of Natal. I worked at the Legal Resources Center, and then in 1985, I connected with him again at the University of Natal. He was finishing his LLB. I was starting my LLB, but also I was doing articles. After that, there were a number of years when there was not as much communication between us because of distance, because I was practicing in Durban. He was in Northwest. I think at some stage he was in Johannesburg. And in 1999, he came to act in the Labor Appeal Court, and we reconnected. And later on, he and others were appointed as judges of the Labor Appeal Court. After some time, he became judge president. I was judge president already. I was not at his wedding. He was not at my wedding. I don't know whether you need anything more.
Well, Chief Justice, I've got a lot of questions, and I will ask that, if it's possible, Judge, if you can just give us a brief responses so that I can canvass all of these questions with you. Now, is your friend to a point where I can say he's your brother?
Well, people use brother in different contexts. I wouldn't object if anybody said my brother, or if I said brother and he said my brother.
It may help the process, Commissioner, but only if you permit.
No.
Okay,
no, Chief
carry
Justice,
on.
no. Is Chief Justice your brother?
Biologically, he's not my brother.
No, in the context of what we debated, me and you now, can you refer to, okay, maybe let me ask it differently. Is either you or Chief Justice, is it one of you, are you the godfather of each other's children or anything of that sort?
No.
Do you go to each other's birthday parties, dinners at home, and friendship like that?
Well, I've visited him in his home with my wife. He has been to my house with his wife.
Did you share a room with Chief Justice at the university? Did you stay together in the same room at the university?
No.
So this friendship is not a close friendship, because the way you are describing it, it's like it's a non-existing friendship.
Well, you see, it's. I think in the past few years, it's been much stronger than it may have been during certain years, but we regarded each other as friends. I mean, you may legitimately say how how come you were not at his wedding if you were his friend, you know? So, but yeah.
And then Commissioner Didiza, your relationship with her?
There is no blood relationship. I met her in the 80s, and we have known each other since then. I've been to, I think I was at her wedding. There is a function which I attended at her house at some stage. But she too, I mean, I'm seeing her today. I don't know how many years I haven't seen her other than seeing her on TV. I presently don't have her phone number. I doubt if she has mine, but we regard each other as friends nevertheless.
Then anyway, I will canvass it later with the colleagues, because the earlier disclosing by these two colleagues described that you've got some family bond, like your family friends, your friends. And I was going to ask you a question. Do you feel comfortable being interviewed by friends?
Well, I have absolutely no problem with being interviewed by friends if it's friends who are professional, who will do their job properly. So I would have a problem if I thought a particular friend was somebody who was not like that. I mean, I've just told you that with regard to the Chief Justice, we debate issues, we disagree, and that's it. In court, sometimes he goes with others, and I go with others in a judgment. It's just not a problem. We understand that friendship mustn't affect integrity. If I don't agree with him, I don't care if all the other 9 colleagues agree with him. I will stand and say I don't agree. And that's what I said I did in relation to another colleague in the Toyota matter. I didn't care that I was the only one who was saying, in this case, the employer must win. And there are other matters where I take my stand, and that's it. And other colleagues do the same.
But you know, I'm scared that somebody else who knows of this friendship, and we appoint you to go and work with your friend, this is going to be seen like a brusque type of an arrangement. Will that not damage the good image of the office of Chief Justice? If friends are seen to be exchanging favors here and legitimizing those favors through a legitimate process like this?
I think that those who know me, those who know the Chief Justice, and I think he's quite well known, would not really be concerned in the list. And I believe he, just as Commissioner Didiza, are people of integrity. I don't expect them to do me any favor. They don't expect that I would expect that. What is important is that those who know us, they will know that it's not nothing untoward is happening.
I'm talking about perception, not the people who know you. I'm not saying anyone is doing you any favor. I'm not saying anything about bad about Chief Justice, but from a distance. Here are 2 friends running the most senior offices in the Constitutional Court. And perception is everything in public office. Don't you think that this will have a negative impact on the good image? Real or not real? But me and you must always be, and that's what why I'm here. I'm always concerned about the image, the integrity of this institution called the judiciary. Don't you think that will have a negative impact?
Well, I think it's possible that some people might think like that. But I think that if people took the trouble to inform themselves about this process, which by now I think is quite well known because the JSC has been there for a long time, they would know that it's highly unlikely that his influence or his friendship to me would sway all these commissioners or the majority of them to vote for me. And I think that people will attach special importance to the fact that he has declared that friendship for all to see, to say, this is the position. He even said, you can ask him a lot of questions, referring to me. So, yes, it may be possible that certain people would have that perception, but I think that if they took trouble to inform themselves about the nature of this process, their concerns should be laid to rest.
Now, the appointment of Justice Nkabinde as an acting Deputy Chief Justice, what did it do to enhance the good image of the judiciary?
Well, I think what was important was, as far as I'm concerned, was that it sent the message that a woman could be appointed to that position even if it was just in an acting capacity.
And that suggested we've moved one step forward in a right direction, particularly on issues that you spoke very passionately about of gender.
Please just repeat that.
The appointment of a female into that position suggested that we've moved one step forward in a right direction, particularly as it relates to gender issues.
I think so, if you can say that of an acting appointment, but I certainly if it was permanent, that would be completely valid, but it may be that even if it's an acting one, one should say the same thing.
No, but I'm asking about an acting position. I'm happy that you agree with me that if it was permanent, it would have been even more positive. But I'm saying her appointment, acting there, being a female, it was a one step in a right direction.
Yes.
And if we're to appoint a permanent female in that position, it will actually send a more stronger message that we are committed to empowerment of women. Is that correct?
Of course.
So if that is being the case, and having fought for women all these years, why wouldn't you decline your nomination and suggest that there must be an empowerment of a female?
Well,
and every time people ask questions, I never cause any problem. I keep quiet and listen to people's questions, no matter how uncomfortable I am with those questions. And I should be given the same respect, Chief Justice. Not here to please anyone. I'm here to ask questions.
Well, Commissioner Malema, I am here because I understand that the President wrote to the JSC and said he is considering appointing me as Deputy Chief Justice, and he would like to hear the views of this body. I thought that I don't have the same information that the President might have had at his disposal in making the decision he made. But when I was told that the this body is required to give its views about me, I said I would come and be available for the interview. I would be speculating if I tried to look at why the president made the decision that he made. But I didn't think that I could decline to come here and make myself available in circumstances where I'm not privy to any information that the president might have. I am aware, of course, subsequent to that in relation to the Supreme Court of Appeal, the president did nominate a woman to be president of the Supreme Court of Appeal, a position that has never been occupied by a woman. But as I say, I don't want to speculate about why the president made the decision that he made.
We're still going to deal with the issue of the Supreme Court of Appeal, and that is another level of the court. And now we're dealing with the highest level of courts. And me and you, we just agreed that the appointment of an acting female was one step forward in a right direction. And therefore, if we were to appoint a permanent male in a position where we had an acting female and we're moving in the right direction, don't you think we'll be taking 2 steps backward when it comes to issues of gender?
Well, it might, I don't know if it's true, but it might look like it's not the step that goes in the same direction as the appointment of a woman colleague as an acting Deputy Chief Justice. But I don't have the facts which may have been before the president to make the decision that he made. And I can't say what influenced him. It may well be that if I were to be privy to the information that was before him, I might say, no, this is not a good decision. Or it may be that I would say, no, now I understand. I just don't have those facts.
Can you take us through your involvement in community issues?
Well, I've been on the bench for about for 20 years now, and I live in Durban, and but I've been in Gauteng during this period. I have not been involved in community issues as such during that time, simply because spending so much time away in Johannesburg and then skipping a weekend, going to Durban, spending only weekends at home, there hasn't been much time for that. But I have had engagements with organizations such as BLA, for example, and have made some suggestions on some of the issues that they should deal with, for example, in relation to the issue of transformation in the legal profession. I made some suggestions about the setting up of a legal transformation fund to try and assist with regard to transformation. So in terms of, I'm afraid my circumstances do not permit me to play a lot of role in community organizations.
No, even before you became a judge, have you
Yes.
been involved in any community issues, development, organizations, even before, not only when you were a judge?
Yes, no, I was involved. For example, at a certain stage, I was working in a township in Mpangeni, which used to be called Eskawini. I think they call it now Eskaleni. I was involved, for example, there in regard to, in 1984, I was there. There were issues that trade unions and communities were involved in. That's where, for example, I met the current premier of KZN. That's where I also met the previous MEC for Economic Affairs, Mabuya Kulu in KZN, when I was working in Empangeni. And in Durban, there was a time when Lamontville Township was having a lot of civic issues, and that's where I met Lechisa Tsinori, the Deputy Speaker. I was with Mklenge's office at that time. I think there may be others, but I was not prominently involved. You know, I took part when there were certain issues, marches, protests, and so on.
And then you said you met Chief Justice around 81 or so. And
Yes.
that is a year where the youth were called upon to render apartheid ungovernable.
Yes.
South Africa ungovernable and apartheid unworkable. Were you a student activist during those times? Because almost all black young people at the time played some role during that time.
Well, when we came to the University of Zululand in 1981, if I recall correctly, the SRC had been banned, and it remained banned for the rest of our time when we studied there. Notwithstanding that, I joined, for example, you know, at universities, they used to have then, I don't know if they still have now, they would have a society of this, a society of that. There was what was called a Society of Humanities. It was chaired by somebody who later became an advocate, I think in Pretoria, but he's late now, Mr. V.W.V. Duba. He was quite active. In a certain way, it sought to try and do something in relation to issues that otherwise an SRC would take up. But it was very limited, it was very difficult. There was a lot of suppression. I was its secretary for a certain time. And so I took part in that. But during that time, there was a lot of repression in terms of student activities at that university. When I was at University of Natal, I didn't take part in a body like the SRC, but I took part whenever there were demonstrations, or that was during the time of the UDF, when, for example, one time the UDF had a rally. I don't know if one calls it a rally if it's in a hall, but it was at the student union. The then president of COSATU, and COSATU had just been formed, Mr. Bahai, I think he spoke there. Mr. Patrick Likota spoke there. Begi Cele was an interpreter there, or translating. Reverend Kundu was there. And I think there would have been also Mewa Ramko Bin would have been there. So I took part in certain activities, but might not have been part of any particular body at a formal level. And this must be viewed within the context also of the fact that I was studying and working at the same time.
Well, Justice Zondo, I think we need to clear up a few things.
Okay?
I thought I was harsher on you than all other colleagues, considering the comments I made on your Toyota and Hendo judgments.
Yes.
I wouldn't have been that hard with any other
Yes,
colleague.
you were very harsh.
But let's deal with gender representation, because it's a thorny issue, and it's worldwide. My sense is that it's such a difficult issue that even political parties will find that the president is a man, the deputy is a man, the secretary general is a man, the spokesperson or even the treasurer is the man in South Africa. Is that not so?
No, it is true, Chief Justice. It's we need to we also need to just accept that we are many of us. We are not. We are trying to do our best, but
Yes.
it's not easy. Yes.
Now, on the question of friends working together in the same environment, wouldn't it be problematic if one of them lacks integrity or is corrupt? Because then the risk is he or she would influence the other. Or if they are both corrupt or both lack integrity.
I think that there would be that danger in that situation.
How dangerous could it be for men or women of integrity who are friends to be involved in the same setting? How dangerous could it then be for the institution? What possible harm could arise?
Chief Justice, is that
And we are
if they
talking
don't
about an
integrity-
informed, from a perspective of an informed, reasonable person, not an ill-informed and therefore unreasonable person.
Well, if one is talking about people of integrity, there is really no problem as far as I'm concerned. And obviously, if you're talking about people who have no integrity, then of course there is a serious problem for an institution.
Yes. Very well. Commissioner Msomi?